Welcome to Stars Podcast, your growth mindset mecca. We are all about self-leadership principles here at Stars Podcast. Our guests come from all over the world with very unique stories of how they hack their way into success. As you'll quickly find out, nothing happens overnight. And as always, enjoy the journey. This episode is brought to you by QUIVR Coffee. True, cold, nitro. Coffee that is just coffee and water. It's nitrogen infused for freshness, zero additives for taste. We also make America's favorite decaf nitro. As we said, it's natural energy, plant-based, unpasteurized, free from additives, always cold, brewed cold, shipped cold. I'll tell you what, I got a fresh pack in my fridge, a week ago? I drank the teas, the coffees, and all of them were amazing. I highly recommend the coffee. If you want something for no caffeine, go with the hibiscus. It's a little bit tart, but boy, it quenches your thirst. All of our listeners get a 10% discount when they use the code STARS, all caps, STARS, at checkout. Shake fast and pour hard. Hey everybody, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're at in the world. I'm Ron Jordan, your host, coming out of Rocinante Studio in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. Welcome back to Stars Podcast for all you longtime listeners. If this is your first time, welcome to the fam. We're all about self-leadership through mental, physical, and spiritual well-being methods to maximize our daily potential. Owning our behaviors while supporting our friends, how much more Web3 does it get? Thank you for joining the movement today. Today, we have Ash Crawford on the show. Ash is a longtime fitness guru, fitness model, actor, and co-founder of QUIVR, an all-natural additive-free coffee brand. He has been a serial entrepreneur most of his life, applying lessons learned along the way and sharing those lessons with his community. Can we say growth mindset? Ash, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ron. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure. So I have my little QUIVR coffee here for those of you just listening. I met Ash over at VCon in real life. We've been talking online through Discord and things like that, through the Web3 world for quite some time, and finally getting a chance to meet him and really put a face to the name. It was really fun. And it's funny too, because I was looking at your website. So anybody who wants to learn more about Ash, go to ashcrawford.com. You make it really easy for a podcaster, I'll tell you that. Because you have everything over there. You have it all over there. But the funny part was your card. The little saying on your card was really clever. And I'd love to jump into that, but you could start wherever you'd like to. I just wanted to kind of go through, just to lay it out for everybody. You know, as most of you listeners know, we keep it pretty free flowing, but I do like to kind of go, where do you come from? What are you doing now? How did you get there? And some of the lessons that you have learned along the way. We can make that story go however you want to. Absolutely. So how did you get into being an entrepreneur at all?
That is a great question. I think that it probably starts early on, like most entrepreneurial journeys. There's whether it's an internal drive to make things happen, or to see the world in a different way, or to try and solve interesting problems. I think that some people are just geared that way, or they get led down that path by various mentors or whatnot. For me, I started my early teen years wanting to be a professional golfer. And I think that a lot of the lessons that I now carry through into my adult life and the business world was learned and forged through hours and hours of practice and striving to be great at something so mentally tough.
Dude, golf is one of those sports that is about as mentally tough as it gets.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's a fantastic,
like a slight angle difference on your wedge is going to make the ball go 50 yards to the right, 50 yards to the left, or right down the money. And you're talking like maybe 5 degrees of angle.
Yeah, I think, I don't know what the math is, but 1 degree of angle at 300 yards is, yes, a very significant
it's
margin of error.
Incredible. So whenever people say, I love it because a lot of the times, because I'm a big golfer too, I love golf, and the people say, oh, it's not a real sport, how can you get injured playing golf? And I'm like, dude, you go walk around that course and then go try and actually swing clubs in a consistent manner for the entire weekend. You're going to say it's a sport after that, I promise you.
It's funny you bring that up, because I felt like I was always justifying that, and growing up in the era of Tiger Woods, really, he was more prepared than anybody else had ever been, arguably in all sport. And yes, he was talented, but he took complete preparation to another level. And what that did was not only made him extremely great for a period of time, but it also opened the doors up for a lot of young players such as myself, Rory McIlroy, Jason Day, Justin Thomas. A few of us are doing well on the tour. You can figure out which ones. But what it did was it showed the amount of preparation that needed to go into to fulfill your potential. And there's all of these old sayings like hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, and all of that. But what does that actually mean in reality? And Tiger set a blueprint for what to do. So all of these young aspiring kids who are wanting to play golf got a psychologist, got a nutritionist, started visualization. They took care of what they did off the course as much as on. And I don't think you'll ever see the same dominance by a player ever again, because everybody out there on the tour or in any sport or even business, there's been people in all facets of life and creativity that have led this way. So I think it's really cool to see now that we're getting a lot more, people are getting a lot more out of themselves with the knowledge of how to prepare for whatever their sport is, whether that's the sport of golf or the sport of business, or if you're making handmade bracelets, it's all about how you prepare.
Yeah, absolutely. So how far did you get whenever you were in your golfing journry? Were you on the Pro-Am?
I made it to the 18th hole most times. I grew up in Australia to an English father and an American mother. And so I had a little bit of a background in a few different cultures, and was really excited about golf because it allowed me to have a commonality between all kinds of race, religion, demographic. It's like you could go play golf anywhere in the world and it was the same, and it was a level playing field. And I really took to that, and I played a lot through high school, played in some of the national Australian tournaments, and then was recruited by a large university in Texas, and ended up going to UNT on a golf scholarship, and played in college. We were one of the better schools in the country, and really just enjoyed the challenge that golf was to get better, and also the ability to travel and meet new people.
So whenever you got to UNT, is that where the fitness journey sort of started for you? Because you had to, I'm sure that it was super competitive and you had to be at the top of your game. Is that where it started?
It did. It started, as I was the year leading into going to college, I knew that I had to be strong and fit, and I'd seen what Tiger and some of the top Olympic athletes, the Olympics were in Sydney as I was entering my teen years. So I got to see the example of what the human body could do. And North Texas, we were a serious D1 school, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 a.m. weightlifting. Tuesday, Thursday, we did cardio and stretching. And like you said, alluded to, it's a sport. We would fly out Saturday, practice round Sunday, 36 holes walking Monday with a 60-pound bag, which is about 15-mile walk, because you're not going straight. And then you play again 18 on Tuesday, fly back Tuesday night. And it's a pretty rigorous sport to concentrate and be able to execute fine motor skills when it's 100 degrees out and you've been swinging 200 miles an hour. It's
That's interesting too, because you got to see the Olympics in your home country and seeing sort of that pinnacle and having And this is something that I talk about all the time is, excuse me, having examples to look at, to model after. I mean, you've alluded to Tiger Woods and all of the like, and then all of the players after him because of the blueprint that was laid out. You know, you're seeing Olympic athletes, you're seeing the top of the line. And what a unique experience that had to have been leading into going to college and seeing all that preparation and work. I mean, that's what it comes down to, is work.
It really does. And I think that golf took me a long way. I did get to play in some small professional events, but I got to look around and I saw my teammates who are now playing on the PGA Tour. I got to see the guys who I grew up playing with and where they were at. And I was like, this is going to be another 10, 15-year journey for me to get to where I want to be. And I had to sit down and reevaluate, is this what I want to do after college for the next period of my life? And I ended up walking away. I was excited about taking some of these skills I'd learned about how I consumed knowledge and then how I applied it to my own life. And I wanted to do that in a different way outside of the ropes. And so I walked away from golf and didn't play really at all for 6-7 years.
Wow. You just totally walked away. Not even yeah.
Walked away.
Done.
Yeah. And yeah, it sort of sent me on this is my early 20s, and I had to have a real hard look at what I wanted to do, where I wanted to live, and the impact that I wanted to make. And I thought I had to figure it out. And it took me a long time to realize that I didn't have to figure it out, and that figuring it out was the thing that I wanted to do and I got excited about. And I set about just trying to learn as much as possible from as many people as possible. And you talked about how did I get into entrepreneurship and what was that journey for me? And I think it started I ended up going to business school in Connecticut, and I was interviewing for some jobs, as you do, as you are leading up to graduation, in the finance field or marketing. And I would sit down with these people who sort of the panel grilling you. Are you good enough to work at our company? And I don't know where I picked this up, maybe my father or another mentor, but I would always flip it around on them. And they would be asking me what all of the standard questions they do. How are you going to bring value? What are you going to do? How are you going to change and bring us profit? And I flipped it around and I said, look, how long have you been doing this? Oh, I've been here 12 years, 15 years. I said, that's fantastic. What makes you jump out of bed every morning at 6 a.m. and race to work and do what you do? And I very rarely found an answer that was even remotely satisfactory.
Ash, I absolutely love that. And anybody who's listening here, you're interviewing for positions out there, I would highly suggest that you ask that question. If whenever they say, hey, do you have any questions? I would ask that question for sure. And I think more times than not, and this is something that I'm hearing a lot more from my friends who are doing hiring and after post-COVID, is there's a lot of conversation that is going around with negotiating work from home. There's a lot more negotiation from the employee side that is occurring, and a lot more open conversations that are happening out there. But I love that question. Can you give me like a answer that you were like, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to work for this company? Or was it a lot of silence?
It was a lot of silence, and it was a lot of them self-reflecting on why do they do what they do, and they didn't have a good answer. And you would see their head tick over. They're like, oh, because I've got a lot of money, or I have a nice house, or the people I work with, but they didn't ever love any of those things. It's like they didn't like the people that they worked with or the team around them. They didn't like the work that they did. They were stressed, and the money didn't make it any better. And so it only took a few of those to realize, okay, who are the people that are enjoying what they do every day? Who's jumping out of bed and just diving into whatever it is they do? And those are the entrepreneurs. Those are the people that are now starting to be more idolized or looked up to as a real path to follow, because the entrepreneurship path is your own path. And that's the cool thing about it. It's like that old analogy. It's like you start down something that you're passionate about, and it's like you're standing at the end of a hotel corridor, and you can see one door at the very end, and you're like, okay, I'm going to head towards that. That's what I want to do. But as soon as you start walking, you see the door on your left, the door on your right. You run into an ice maker and a place to make coffee halfway down the hall. All of these opportunities start to come up as you walk down your own path to something. And that sparked something for me. And I knew then that I was never going to work for a corporation that I didn't at least own or start.
Sure.
And it was going to be a different path.
So what is it that makes you jump out of bed in the morning? Let me flip it around on you. What's making you jump out of bed every morning to live the life that you're living?
That is a great question. And I'm glad you asked it. I jump out of bed every morning because I've been fortunate enough and early enough in my life to realize that we get one shot at this.
Yes, sir.
It's one of those things that I hope to instill in my children one day, or that anybody that I can, that this is such a beautiful opportunity that we've been given to live and to get the most out of that, whatever that means for you. And if that's diving into a sport, or if it's diving into social work, or whatever that is for you, do that thing. And for me, I want to. So it's a couple of folds. There's so many things that I want to do, and I know that I can do.
I know. I can see the wheels spinning in your head. You're like, what gets me out of bed is like these 1,000 things that I get to choose to do, you know?
Right. It's like all of the things I was like, I gotta go. There's people to meet. There's things to build. There's
the excitement.
There's runs to go on. And so for me, it's about how many of these life experiences can I have in my life? Mm-hmm. And I have this little internal motto, and it goes like this. I want to make the world a better place. I want to have fun doing it with people that I love. And what I mean by that is I want to make the world a better place. And yes, that means the world at large. And whether or not I'm going to have a historic impact on that, who knows? But the world to me means your barista at the coffee shop in the morning. Right now, my world is you and I and the people that are listening. So understanding what your world is at that point in time. I want to have fun doing it. Let's have some humor. Let's enjoy each other's company and people that I love. That's not just my family. I want to strive to develop relationships where I genuinely care and love about the people that I'm interacting with. And I realized about 10 years ago that if I did those three things in whatever work I was doing that day, and I've had all kinds of jobs, and from cleaner to personal assistant to, fetching coffee for celebrities. But if I could make that little world a better place, bring some humor to it, and then really strive to listen and understand those people that I was spending time with each day, I would go to bed that night being like, I am fulfilled in my day today, and I know that I left a good impact. And that's why I jump out of bed every morning to do those three things.
Has there ever been a time in your life where you were a little bit disappointed going to bed because you didn't do those things?
Absolutely. I'm human, and I forget.
Yeah.
We constantly need reminders. I have Post-it notes all over my office reminding me of little things, and everyone has their own way of trying to stay on track. And it's like a meditation practice. It's like you sit down and you spend time with yourself and your thoughts, and sometimes your thoughts wander and you get off track, and that's okay. So there are times when I forget what what my purpose is or my meaning is. But the more times that I can remind myself to do that and add this little sort of overlay to it, that for a long time, I wasn't a happy child. I was driven to find success in the traditional manner. And I was in this pursuit of happiness. And I just realized that you can't be happy. You can't force yourself to be happy. It's a result of something else. And so I dove into what was that for me and what did I think rang true. And for me, it comes down to presence and gratitude. You can choose to be present no matter what's going on. If you remember and you're aware of it, you can choose to be present. You can also choose to be grateful. That is a choice that we have as a part of our free will. And I found that the more times that I am present and I am grateful, I am happier.
Isn't that the truth? When you can really boil things down to just being grateful for what you currently have. Yes, we have aspirations to do more and be more and to affect more folks in a positive way. But whenever you just kind of look back and you get that view and you're like, man, I'm actually doing all right. I'm doing good.
Right. Perspective.
It's so, and like, that's another reason why I love social media too. And I like when, I don't like it, but I like the perspective that it gives me, because you are able to now see, like with social media and just the internet in general, you can see globally what's happening around the world. And when you kind of look at your own situation and you look at some of those other places and you're like, man, they don't even have water, or they don't have this. And look at, like, there's no way that I can actually complain about my Starbucks coffee being lukewarm.
Right.
It's like, there's so many things. Like, we went to the MMA fights yesterday, and we had to stay in Long Island. We stayed in a hotel, and I have like these sweet night rewards. They didn't have a room clean for the sweet night rewards, and they were like scrambling to try and get me a room that was a sweet night reward. And I said, guys, like, they thought that I was going to be upset because they couldn't get that for me. And I was like, listen, I appreciate your concern, but all I need is a room. Like, I don't need that other thing. If you have a room, I'm okay. And they just kind of looked at me like I had three eyes. And that showed me that they're used to people freaking out about kind of that entitlement and wanting more and wanting that thing. And yes, standards are very key and crucial. However, sometimes it's okay to settle and just be grateful for that thing. Right. And that, like, it really threw me for a loop, and I had to sit on that. I've been sitting on that. I haven't told anybody that story yet, including my wife. I haven't told anybody. So you're my first one telling that to. And it really resonated in my heart that those people have to deal with that in the hospitality world. And it kind of struck me in a way that I didn't think. I just wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah.
I just wasn't prepared for it.
So that's it's a curious thing that we all know that there is these things that we can do, these gratitude practices or meditations, or just having perspective, hearing stories from our grandparents about how they lived through wars or famine and depressions. So we all, if you've been around for a little while, you've experienced a number of these reminders. So why do we continue to be so hard on ourselves and each other, and these level of entitlement? Why does that keep happening? And what can we do to increase that sort of that gratitude practice on a bigger scale? And I've been doing a lot of thinking on this recently, and it's still sort of a bit of a half-baked thought or idea, but have you heard of the term or the saying where you're the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with, you associate with? Absolutely. So choose wisely who you're in the presence of. And I was thinking on that. I was like, I have, yeah, 5 really good friends and they are fantastic. But where does true wisdom come from? Where does understanding and perspective and empathy come from? And why do I have a level of that somebody else might not? And for me, it really boils down to meeting new people. And that's something that I've started to explore. And let me sort of explain a little bit here is I think that you're not the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. We are actually the sum of all people we've ever met. And as humans, we're very, very intuitive, and we're incredible at taking experiences and information and absorbing the ones that sit and feel true to us. And I've been very fortunate to meet a lot of people in a lot of different places in the world. And it was also something that I was really trying to do for a long time. I wanted to meet as many people as I could, to ask them what they're passionate about, to be present around them, to listen, and then consciously or unconsciously take away some learnings from that. And I think that if you look to some of the most grateful or what seems like grounded or kind people, they are ones that have spent a lot of time with a lot of different people, whether that was intentional or not. I think that we have so many lessons to learn from so many different people. And that can be a quick interaction at a drive-through bank with a teller, be like, oh, I want to absorb some of how they treated me, or I don't. Or it can be a long-term relationship with the best friend or a partner. But I think that the more people we meet, the more perspectives we see and can truly hear, the more we're able to fill out a rounded, grateful presence and what I like to call wisdom.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think traditionally that has happened like through reading and listening to the radio and getting new perspectives that way. I listen to podcasts that I don't even agree with, just to understand the way of thinking. And
Right.
I listen to voices that I really don't want to listen to. And I'll catch myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, this person is so annoying. I can't do it anymore. But I keep going, because at some point it comes back to, we probably have something in common. We're all humans. And I think that's what, kind of going to what you're talking about, is when I can see that there's so much commonality in so many different walks of life. And you hear about gratitude in pretty much every corner of the world, about that is almost the secret sauce to happiness. Because that's really what everybody's like trying to achieve, is this happiness, this pinnacle that we feel is happiness, that gets you out of bed in the morning and puts you to sleep at night with a smile on your face. And
Right.
in order to get there is a weird path for a lot of people, because it's confusing, because there's no roadmap. But I think that there is starting to become more of a roadmap to that happiness, and we're starting to see more of this gratitude, more of this presence, and more of this full picture than just money and meetings on the schedule. It's these relationships. And I think despite how awful COVID was, it forced us to become introspective and forced us to have our groups become smaller. And now that we're kind of expanding again, we're taking all of that closeness and bringing that elsewhere, I think. And I'm like really enjoying this conversation about the gratitude and the presence and some of these things that you do. One of the things that we talk about are the kind of the daily practices to keep us in that way. And you alluded to this, where you have like little cards that remind you. I'm curious, what are maybe like your top 2 sort of protocols that you go through, either daily, weekly, monthly, whatever, things that like really push the envelope for you in that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that like I said, we're aware of all of these things, but we're also human, and it's really hard when you've got deadlines at work, or you've got pressures from family or friends, or various commitments and responsibilities. And we need these little reminders or groundings, and they're different for everyone. So for me, especially in today's age of social media and our phones and computers, we're always on and connected to a screen, not to people. And so for me, a large part of what I do is Web3, NFTs, social media, running some brands. And a few months ago, I realized that I need to protect time for me, and how do I be present is one of those big things. So I start every morning, and I get up and I have a big glass of water. I put on my running shoes and I go out the door, and I go for a run. And it doesn't matter how long I go, how far I go, as long as I make it out the door. And you know what? I've never turned back immediately. I sometimes I go a mile, sometimes I go 5 miles, but my only expectation for myself is that I get out the door with my shoes on and then see what happens. So while I'm going out for a run, my sauna is heating up. I come back inside, I stretch, I do a 20-minute sauna at about 200 degrees. And then I read and I journal. And sometimes I journal, then read. Sometimes I just do one. And then I make my breakfast and have my coffee. And I don't touch my phone or computer until 9 a.m. And I try and protect that first 3 hours of the morning to connecting with my girlfriend or just myself, and being really, really aware of how I start my day, getting a little bit of physical activity, getting some spiritual time, whatever that is for me in that moment, and then some really mental quiet. And if I do those things, I then feel energized and can attack the day. And I throw in a cold shower there to end the morning routine, and keep it pretty simple.
It's amazing to me how many people that I talk to that are high achievers like yourself that start the day with water, exercise, and journaling.
Yeah.
It's like this recurring theme. And those of you who have been listening, you know this. It's the thing. And I started this implementation probably 2 years ago. I add a little bit to my water now. I use drip drop. I'll use liquid IV. I'll use Hammer Nutrition, little fizz drops, just like to give me a little bit of extra electrolytes. I've heard people using just salts and minerals and all those things, but it's always, let me guzzle some water. Let me get my body recharged in that respect. And then you also do the heat and the cold, which I think is really unique. Man, I would love to have a sauna. I would love it. We just implemented one at our jujitsu gym. It's an infrared sauna. I can't wait. To get into that.
I use it about 5 days a week. Honestly, I built it last year, and even in the heat of summer, it's about 100 degrees here in the Northeast, but it is fantastic, and I can't advocate sauna enough. But it's whatever that presence, that way for you to get in touch with yourself and the nature or people without technology is sort of whatever that looks like for you.
I like the rule that you have. I like the rule that you have though about not touching that phone until 9. That I need to implement that a little bit better myself. I was pretty good at I called it blocking times. So I would just have blocks of time that I would be on social media. I would not be on social media. I'd be working on this or this company and this thing. So like I was really good at it, and I've fallen off probably in the last month. Just like you said, life happens. There's been a lot of travel. There's been a lot of other things going on. So I'm going to get back into that. You reminded me.
That's good. It's one of those things that's like, you see a lot of these highly successful or high performing people have something to ground them in, whether it's Dwayne Johnson works out at 4 a.m. every day, no matter where he is in the world. That's it for him. For me, it's just putting on my shoes and jogging out the door. And also not setting that expectation for results. I think that a lot of people find paralysis in expectation.
I can't
And
applaud you any. I can't applaud louder than I am right now about that right there.
yeah,
It is the expectation, this fictitious world that you expect to happen, and you just putting on the shoes to get out the door that's it. That's the freaking
that's
sauce.
and I agree, and I think that can spill over into work, into everything else, putting expectations that it just makes it so difficult for you to truly perform and do your best or live your best or whatever that is. And I think that I coach some people into social media and how do they grow their brand and their presence. And the most common thing is people are like, well, I can't do all of those things. I can't use the tools. I can't edit. I can't post 5 times a day. And I'm never going to have that reach or that following. And it always comes back to, I say, let's take away all the expectation. What are you excited to talk about? What's really fun for you to create content around? What is repeatable? Like, can you do it over and over again? Is it easy? And is it something that you're passionate about? And for me, I know that I'm not great with technology. I can't do edits and sound clips and trending dances on TikTok. But what I knew was that every day I pull up to my office and I leave my office in my car, I was like, I can take a 10-second video and I can add whatever trending sound is there to it. And I can smile and I can spread just a smile and a little bit of happiness. And that's easy for me. It's fun to do. I can do it 5 times a day and it fits into what I have capacity for. And I encourage people to do whatever that is and just start. Put the shoes on, take a step in whatever it is you're doing, and don't set these high expectations. Just set, I'm going to do the work. It's as simple as that. You've
That's
just got to
absolutely
start.
right. And I was watching this master class. I can't remember their name and I always butcher it, but they were 2 guys. They have a talent agency out of San Francisco. They're huge names in the industry. And they were talking about what they do with their teams whenever they're creating ideas. And they literally will sketch out on a piece of paper with stick figures and thought bubbles what they want the story to look like. And they say, you just have to start writing it. You have to just start. There's no expectation of this is going to be the most amazing thing in the world. There's none of that. It is just, we're going to start this. We're going to thought bomb this, and we're all going to put our ideas on. And I don't care what it looks like, but the story is just going to be these like five panes in like a comic book. And, you know, if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, at least we put the idea on paper. And it goes to what you're talking about. Just put on the shoes. I think that like that's a great tagline. Just put on the shoes.
Yeah, I like it.
So let's jump into QUIVR Coffee. I do want to talk about QUIVR Coffee and what you have going on there. And whenever I use this, so those of you who are not watching, I'm just holding up it's almost like a tea bag of coffee, and I've used it, and I want to know more about where the idea came from for the tea bag version of coffee, because usually you have to do like a pour over or something like that, and you have the grounds, but this is like already in the thing, so it's like it's almost a play on the hotel little pod thing. So curious about where QUIVR came from and that idea itself.
Absolutely. Well, this is a fantastic example of just putting on the shoes and no expectations around what's going to happen, but doing it because felt the urge to do it and wanted to do it. So QUIVR is a coffee and tea company that my brother and I started just around the start of the pandemic. And it was born out of a cafe. My brother has a small coffee shop in Massachusetts, and we had to close our family business during COVID. And we wanted to bring cafe quality beverages to people at home who couldn't venture out of their bubble or their house. And we've always in the cafe prided ourselves on using local and the highest quality ingredients and having that fantastic latte art experience. And so how could we do that and bring that to people at home? And so QUIVR was born out of that. And we started with nitro cold brew, and we do a nitro cold brew that just has fresh roasted super high quality coffee and nothing else. There's no additives, there's no natural flavors. It is just a pure expression of nitro cold brew like you've had poured from a tap in a cafe. And we have some nitro teas, and we have some hot teas that we love. And we realized that when you're on the go, a big part of what we do is we know that it started for ourselves. We are doing so many things. We're running around. We can't always afford to have a French press or a pour over, just like we can't make our own cold brew in our house. So we made the cans. And so with the steeped coffee that you just showed there is a tea bag, but with coffee in it. And the unique part about that is coffee oxidizes when it touches oxygen. It's like a banana. When you cut into it, it goes brown. Still tastes like a banana, but it's a bit weird after a few hours. Same thing happens to coffee times 1,000. So in order to prevent that, we put it in a little pack, and it's nitrogen sealed. So there's no oxidization. The cool thing about it is that whole pack is compostable, as well as the bag inside. It's all chemical-free dyes. So it really does act as a better alternative to the pods and the Keurigs, because those things just fill our landfill like crazy. So we've got the hot steeped coffee, and it's for when you're on the go. It's when you run out of beats. It's when you're traveling, and all you need is hot water, a couple of minutes, and you've got a fresh cup of coffee.
Yeah, and I have to attest, it was delicious. I mean, I think I had four of these from VCon, and it is delicious. I wanted to dive in on the nitro piece of it, because I used to brew beer, and there was always this like nitrogen craze that had happened. And I'm curious why you're using nitrogen.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the nitrogen is teeny tiny bubbles. It's a gas. It's not a flavor or anything. CO2 is larger bubbles that you'll see in Sprite or cola. CO2 doesn't really mix well with coffee at a chemical level. It sort of can skew the flavor of it, make it a little funny. So you don't really see sparkling coffee. Nitrogen doesn't have that effect. So it's twofold. It keeps the product really fresh without having to add stabilizers, sugars, and additives. And it also creates a really creamy texture and mouthfeel without the use of dairy or any kind of creamer. So we're recording this, right?
Yeah.
So how about I just give you a quick little example? This is our coffee. It's our cold brew coffee. Again, sugar-free, dairy-free, keto, vegan, paleo. And to get the experience like you're in a cafe, you give it a bit of a shake, and that breaks the nitrogen out of solution. And we say shake hard, pour fast. And so by pouring fast, you're going to get that second phase of breaking the nitrogen out of solution. And hopefully the camera is clear enough here. You can see the teeny tiny bubbles, and they're going to stack out just like it's been poured from a tap.
Look at that. Look at that cascade. Oh my gosh. It's beautiful.
So you get this incredible mouthfeel, this incredible texture, and you get to have that cafe experience at home or wherever you are.
Yeah. And that's, to me, that was always something that I was really intrigued about. And I mean, it looks like anybody who's drank a Guinness before, out of those nitro, out of the tap, or even just the nitro brews that they sell, and it like makes that big psh sound. It looks just like that. And it's a cool way to, it's like just super cool that you can do that. Secondly, it's a great alternative to dairy and creamer, and it can take away some calories from your daily coffee routine as well. Is that a conversation that you guys have?
It is, definitely. I mean, my brother and I are both keto most of the time. And so we've also gone through various stages of elite sport and training, and we're very conscientious of what we eat and drink. And so we wanted to make something that was safe for everybody, that if you had any kind of nut allergy, dairy, or there is just so much sugar in all of the canned and all of the beverages and food basically in the Western world, and we really wanted to be the opposite of that. We wanted to create a clean and pure example of something that you felt really good about having, and that whether you were paleo or Whole30, it fit your macros, and also tasted really good.
You want to talk
Simple as that.
about taking, and goes back to you introducing yourself to new people and new things and always evolving.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what makes a really good entrepreneur is you taste from all of these different genres, from the sports world, the nutrition world, the entrepreneur world, and you bring it all together and you see an opportunity and then also the family business world and the response to COVID and these interactions that all have to take place for this business to even become a thing. You have to be taking in all of these pieces of the puzzle from these different genres to then see, okay, we want to save our family business. How do we do that? So this problem solving skill that you're going through constantly it comes from everything you've already done. But what I'm getting at is understanding other people and their motivations and why they're doing certain things, and how you can fit into that and make it better is what you're talking about as your whole life goal. And I love that QUIVR has become that for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where you start out doing something for you, and because there is something that you couldn't find, like we couldn't find a good can of cold brew that didn't have 25 grams of sugar in it and had flavors and colors in it. And so we were like, let's make one. And when you start down that entrepreneurial journey, like we talked about, you start to run into problems to solve. And that's some really rewarding and fulfilling stuff in work is solving interesting problems. And I like to look at it as like, it's either been done before and there is a good path to follow and to solve that problem, or it's never been done, in which case, who better to forge a path than me or somebody who's passionate about what we're doing. It's like, how do we get nitro in a can without a widget, without a tap? How do we ship it cold everywhere in America in 2 days? And how do we do it so you can have it for $4 a can? That's hard, but that's fun. It's like, I knew nothing about logistics or operating a warehouse or creating a brand online. I mean, I had a bit of an idea about that because of my personal brand, but I was like, I love this. I love what we do. I love being able to bring new products into the world that are convenient and quality. So like, I'm going to keep doing that, and I'm going to share it with other people who are busy. It's like, you've got a family, you've got a job, you've got a side hustle you're passionate about, you've got social commitments. Everybody is doing so many things. Like, I don't want the answer to be a can of Red Bull or Monster. I want you to be able to grab something that's super high quality, but also fits into your life. If you're trying to get to the gym at 6 a.m. because you've got to be at your desk at 7, like, I want to be able to offer you something that is additive to that, so you can go and create and do the things that you're excited about.
Yeah. Convenience is the most important piece of my life right now. Is if I can, like, the best investment, and I'm going to ask you this question as well, the best investment that I've made probably in the last 3 years for under $100 has been a lawn care person. I don't have to spend hours every month mowing my lawn. And like, that has freed up hours of my life to do other things that I'm much more passionate about. And I think that when we can have those time savers to then enhance our lives, to go do the thing. I was, I said this the other day on my Instagram. It was, you do the things you got to do the things you want to do. And like, the grass cutting was like the thing I had to do. And now I'm like, I can do so many other things. Like, whenever the guy is coming in to do the lawn, I'm going out on a run. Like, it's so fun to like see it in action now. So I wanted to ask you, what's an investment under $100 that you've made And it can be recently, it can be in the last couple years, in yourself that has either changed your life in a positive or negative way?
That is a good question. I don't I don't buy many things. I really
It could even be an
just,
experience.
yeah, I just stick to the necessity. Like I wear the same t-shirt every day. It's like the Steve Jobs turtleneck. He
Right.
didn't have to pick out his clothes. Um, let me think about that as we continue on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so as far as QUIVR goes, where are you at right now with the sort of, because you did mention you can ship all across the United States in 2 days.
Yeah.
And that's got to be an interesting thing now, especially given the supply chain issues. And just, I know from my business, it's been an absolute disaster, trying to find rail cars, trying to find drivers, the surcharge on diesel, all of those costs are increasing. I'm curious how you're navigating those waters.
It's tough. Freighting and transportation, shipping, packaging, supplies, everything. It's tough. But I think in the end, I'm betting that people are moving in the direction of supporting small business and quality, and they're going to seek that out. And I really want to be that answer for people. And I think that as long as we can provide something at a super high quality and convenience, but is still accessible, we're going to keep doing it. And yeah, we have our own website, drinkquiver.com, and Amazon has been a great platform for us because everybody, like you said, is convenience. They'd rather shop there one place. And we're actually doing a lot more wholesale as businesses start to open up again. Gyms, cafes, small mom and pop places around the country, we do direct wholesale to those people, and we're able to offer something unique. And yeah, just QUIVR is as much as a coffee and tea brand as it is a lifestyle. It's like we want to support the entrepreneurs, and we're leaning into Web3. It's like we want to be the fuel of Web3 creatives. If you're discording all day, you're degenning on mints, you're coding, I would love to see you drinking pure coffee or tea, hot, cold, whatever we've got for you, versus slamming all these chemical sugar drinks. It's like, I believe like there's going to be a blend of virtual and real, but we've still got to take care of our physical bodies. And so if we can promote a healthy balance and supply a little bit of caffeine or non-caffeine beverages at the same time, I think that's some good work to be doing.
I couldn't agree with you more. And that's a great segue into this Web3 world. And that's how we met. What are you excited for in Web3 right now? Given the market is sort of shit at the moment, it's not stopping some of us. So I'm curious, those of us who are still here, what excites you about Web3?
The possibilities of what smart contracts mean and the blockchain technology on of ownership and transfer of ownership, and the ways that can cross over into real life. And the best example I love to give when I'm talking about Web3 to people is they're like, well, isn't that just a JPEG of a monkey or whatever? And a lot of your listeners here are they understand that we're not the right click save people, but the opportunities for gaming, for the art, to get the artists getting a piece of their work in perpetuity is so fantastic, as well as the access. It's like we've started to see it with Gary Vee and some of these other projects like the Proof Collective from Kevin Rose and whatnot. But having the smart contracts outlining what it means to hold a token or a representative of something is just fantastic. It's like our car will be an NFT, our house. At the moment, you can sell a $50,000 piece of art as an NFT with a few clicks of a button. It takes me a week to sell my car. It's very, very difficult, but it's going to be fantastic when all of these major real life things are represented in an NFT, and we're able to collect, trade, and have proof of ownership. It's fantastic.
I agree with that part too. And I'm curious if you've ever done a thought process about your company QUIVR and how you could do, and I've thought about this just from, because whenever you say organically sourced in today's language, there's no transparency as to what that really means.
No.
With the blockchain, we could potentially transform what that means and visibly see that on the blockchain from bean to can into consumer. You could follow it along from literally from the farm to your door. And I think that that's something that is it's unique for the blockchain. And if you had very clear like ENS addresses for the farmer, for the transportation company, for your company, through the logistics to the company that bought it or the consumer who bought it, and the whole entire process is documented, I think that's a cool application.
Absolutely. For people who are doing it with integrity, definitely. And I think that transparency is fantastic. And that's what the blockchain brings to us as well,
exactly.
is that level of transparency. And I think that that's fantastic. And yeah, we've been thinking about different ideas and how do we incorporate what we do with consumable beverages in the NFT space, and what does that look like in terms of how we want to participate. And we've got a few ideas, and we're not quite ready to dive in yet, and not sure if everybody is quite ready for what that means. But I think that there would be a very interesting tie, like you said, between the farmers and people who are producing on the land, and their life's work and passion is growing coffee for what we're talking about, or tea, and then being able to invest in those. And you touched on organic, which we aren't certified organic because I have some qualms about that. Organic certification is just a pay-to-play certification, and we work with some small family farms that have been operating for hundreds of years, and they can't afford the organic certification from the American organizations. Their practices go far above and beyond, and we are participating in sustainable trade with them and investing in their family farm. But because they can't afford the $50,000 and the paperwork that is far beyond their capabilities at that point in time, they're not allowed to be certified organic. So I've got some qualms about the American stamping authorities on these different practices. But that said, I think that the blockchain technology, like, think of this. Imagine if QUIVR released an amount of coffee beans. You could buy a bean, and that represented a farm that we support and we buy from. With the blockchain technology and the way coding works is your bean can be staked and it can grow. It can grow into a coffee tree that you can then harvest. And that can give you perks in our store. You can then take those beans and you can roast them, and then you can claim a physical product like this. And every time that there is one of those transactions on the blockchain where there is a bit of a royalty, guess who that goes back to?
The farmer.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Wouldn't that be cool? So
tell me, like, this gets me so excited. So now it goes back to just like we were talking about, and this is something that we've all sort of heard about and have had issues with, is big box stores, and which has helped you arguably, with Amazon. But so the big box stores, the factory farming, the these like big business ideas that the normal everyday person isn't really a part of. And the farmers, from what I understand, especially like in the meat industry, it's very difficult for, let's say, like a poultry farmer to really make money working with Tyson. I don't know if you've watched the documentary on that whole fiasco. But if you went back, because I'm also a part of this olive oil club. What's his name? It'll come to me. Anyhow, I'm a part of this olive oil club, and being a part of it, you get this little newsletter because this gentleman travels all around the world and works with local farmers that are olive oil farmers. And you buy this fresh pressed olive oil from these some of them aren't very little farms, but they've mastered their craft, and it's allowing them to play in a world where olive oil is it's a huge industry. And for these smaller local family owned farms to participate is very difficult.
Right.
But as a community, you can come together and allow them to participate, because now you are the conduit to that. And that excites me to no end, because it brings back the mom and pop shops in a very Web3 way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm wild.
I'm excited about that. The possibilities of that sort of like the membership to a club that is supporting something that you believe in, whether it's olive oil, it's coffee, it's sustainable agriculture, or preservation of specific wildlife. The blockchain allows us, the people who have the opportunity to consume these sort of luxury goods, to be able to sort of revitalize or reinvest into the supply chain in a way that hasn't existed
ever. I mean, I heard at one point there's one company that owns all of the like cargo containers or something like that. Like they own all of them that ship from major port cities. Like they own all of them. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's insane.
Yeah.
That's occurring. So yeah, I'm like even more excited that we had this conversation, because the idea of me buying a bean, it grows into a tree and I get the beans and I can harvest them and roast them and then get QUIVR coffee. That's like a gamification of the whole entire buying process. And then by doing that, I actually support the farmer too. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. You're killing it, Ash. That's killing it.
Yeah. Early days yet, but yeah,
of course. But
look for the QUIVR Coffee Club for sure.
But that's what it comes down to, is you went into a new genre, you went into this new space you didn't know anything about, and you are a person who likes to solve interesting problems. And given your entire history, and you've come to this place, and it came out of necessity because your family business was in jeopardy, and now you're assisting other family businesses as a result of solving that interesting problem. I applaud you for that. And with that, I'd like to close out on today, because I don't know any better way to close out than that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So is there anything that you'd like to get across to the listeners, where they can find you at? I'd like to get through all of that as well.
Yeah, I think that one thing that I want to potentially leave with is that we've talked about a lot of different things, how to be high functioning, or some of these little tips and tricks. And what I've really seen is that if there is something that you want to do in your life, whether it's improve your physical fitness or your nutrition or your work-life balance or something in your relationship, is take the time to dive in. You don't need to get to the top 0.01% of that field, but spend enough time, give yourself enough of a chance to learn and dive deep enough into whatever it is you're passionate about, to get good at it and to get some results from it without the expectation. And I just really, I've seen that work time and time again. And you've got to do it with things that you're interested in and passionate about, but just start and just dive right in. I think that's my key takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely. And then as far as finding where QUIVR is, finding more about you, like where are your socials?
Yeah, I'm at Ash Crawford on Instagram, TikTok, I think Twitter there, and QUIVR. You can Google us, Drink QUIVR. We're drinkquiver.com. We are on Amazon. We do wholesale. Please check us out if you're interested in quality coffee and tea. And I'm looking forward to connecting with any of the listeners here who got something out of the conversation today. Please reach out. Shoot us a message when you're viewing to this, when you're listening to this. Drop a review on the podcast. I love to read through everything that people interact with any of the content that I'm doing, because it's freaking cool. Wherever you are in the world, if you come across a photo that I've posted or a funny TikTok, or you've had QUIVR, like, let me know, because that's freaking awesome. And maybe we're going to cross paths like we did at an NFT conference, or you've got an idea for something that you need some help with, and maybe we can provide some insight. So hit us up.
Awesome. And that's QUIVR, QUIVR, no ER. So I just wanted to have that clarification there. Ash, thank you so much for joining us today. As always, guys, enjoy the journey. Take care.
Thank you so much for sticking here until the very, very end. If you wouldn't mind just leaving a comment or subscribing or liking the podcast or wherever you downloaded this, maybe it was from YouTube, I would love for that. You take an extra couple seconds to give us some more love. Even though you have listened here to the very, very end, we appreciate that so much. Could you also go over to thestarspodcast.com if you found any of this really interesting and you wanted to dive in a little bit further, or go to our Discord, which is Rocinante Studios NFT. Enjoy the journey. Check out our Twitter Spaces show live every Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a Rug Radio presentation hosted by Ron Jordan and co-hosted by Alyssa Jordan. It's called the Growth Mindset Mecca, where we go over different techniques that we use to hack our minds and our guests' minds to get the maximum potential out of each and every day. Check us out Tuesdays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard over at Twitter Spaces.